I'm pretty sure we all know about Jacques Villeneuve's Formula One adventure, especially his 1997 season during that epic title duel between himself and Michael Schumacher. Of course, it ended in controversial fashion in the season finale in Jerez, but that's not what I'm here to talk about. In this following presentation, we take a look back on Villeneuve's sensational 1996 rookie season, and how he almost won the title and possibly could have had things went his way. So, without further ado, let's get into it. Having won the IndyCar Championship, including the Indy 500 in 1995, Villeneuve decided to take it one step further, having a go at the pinnacle of motorsport, Formula One. Signing with Williams, which that team back then was fighting for championships, believe it or not, and even won multiple championships during the early 1990s with the likes of Nigel Mansell and Alain Prost. With Villeneuve joining the squad, partnering Damon Hill, who arguably you could say won the championship in 94, things looked promising for the Canadian, putting his racecraft and driving skills to the test, going from IndyCar to Formula One.
Hill's best competition may come from teammate at IndyCar champion Jacques Villeneuve. Both were in Estoril, Portugal for the unveiling of the new team car, the one that the Williams-Renault team hopes will regain them the Constructors' title. Villeneuve has been impressive on and off the track, and he recognizes F1 is a whole new ball game.
Definitely F1 is going to be a huge challenge. It's a whole lot of new drivers, new teams, new tracks. It's probably a little bit dirtier than IndyCar as well, so of course it's going to be a huge challenge.
In round one, which was the inaugural race on the streets of Albert Park in Melbourne for the Australian Grand Prix, Jacques Villeneuve put his Williams FW18 on the pole position. Not only that, but dominated the race, having led 50 of the 58 laps in the process, and having bits of wheel-to-wheel action with his teammate Hill.
And Villeneuve realises that now he's got to go for it because Damon Hill's tyres are not as warmed as Villeneuve's are. There's not a lot of difference in it, and Villeneuve fights and retakes the lead. Fantastic! Absolutely incredible! And then Villeneuve is... Oh, Damon Hill is all over the back of Villeneuve. There's obviously a lot of fraught competition between these two. We didn't see an incident earlier on, but Villeneuve was a second ahead of Hill. I wonder if being behind Panis, that's Olivier Panis and Ligier that's ahead. I think there's been an incident that we didn't see somewhere that's let Hill get right back in contention with Villeneuve. The gloves are off, their teammates are great mates, and off goes Villeneuve, and he gets on the course back in front of Hill, and he manages to block his teammate because that was Damon's opportunity. He wasn't able to take it, but now Hill can push very hard indeed, and he's trying to take him on the outside. He nearly goes off on the inside of the corner. What a sensational scrap. And remember, this is for the lead between teammates. Well, I think that was Villeneuve driving over the top there. I have to say, I think that was too forceful. Villeneuve deliberately drove in towards the side. And let's have another look here. Villeneuve gets wide, he scrabbles, he gets it very wide indeed. He's on the grass, he gets back on the track. He's now going a lot slower than Hill. Hill then has the momentum. Now watch Villeneuve literally try and drive, swerve across. Look at Villeneuve, he's moving across to the right-hand side. He's blocking the right, so Hill has to lift off. Hill goes to the left. I think that was too forceful from Jacques Villeneuve. That's really going to have wound up Damon Hill. Fundamentally, Jacques Villeneuve made the mistake. He recovered well, but Damon Hill had the right to use his superior momentum to go by. I think that was an incredible repetition of what happened between Schumacher and Hill at Adelaide the year before last. Damon then dived up inside Schumacher only to be knocked off. And it looked to me as though Damon was actually deciding that he was going to stay where he was, because Schumacher was coming right back in Villeneuve was coming right back in front of him. But my goodness, it's irrelevant because they are absolutely at it now.
But in the final laps, Villeneuve's car was leaking oil, and thus, to avoid a possible DNF, let Damon pass and took it easy to the finish line, bringing it home to second place, scoring 6 points on his Formula One debut. In Brazil, it looked to be the exact same result, with Villeneuve bringing the car home to second place. However, during the Brazilian Grand Prix, while the conditions were wet and damp in the early stages, the Benetton of Jean Alesi made a lunge on the inside line coming into turn 4, sending Villeneuve into an error and beached his car in the gravel pit. Despite this rookie mistake, Villeneuve shook it off and was quick on learning the FW18, as he had the package to challenge his teammate for the championship. Villeneuve really had to learn, and fast, considering Damon Hill was getting away with a commanding lead in the championship, and also winning the opening 3 rounds in Australia, Brazil, and Argentina. And at the Nürburgring, Villeneuve was able to end Hill's winning hot streak, having led every single lap in the European Grand Prix to nab his maiden Formula One win, closing the gap from 18 to 11 points behind in the championship. 1 week later in Imola, Villeneuve and Jean Alesi came to blows on the opening lap in the first few corners, which cost Villeneuve dear, with the result of a left rear puncture sending him way down the order in dead last. And yet, still made his way through into the points into P6, with a chance of getting 1 point. Until he was forced to retire following a suspension fault. With Hill claiming victory on top of this, it was not what Villeneuve needed at the end of the day, as the Canadian had even more work to do to catch up. Monaco wasn't much better. The worst qualifying for Villeneuve during his rookie season came at Monaco with a 10th place grid slot. Due to how wacky and eventful this very Monaco Grand Prix shaped to be, including Damon Hill retiring from the lead after suffering an engine failure, Villeneuve worked his way through the field and found himself in the points, and looked to score 3 points with a 4th place finish, which was possible, but due to a crash getting into it with Luca Badoer, put an end to that. But at least he went a longer distance than Damon. And the Spanish Grand Prix in Barcelona was also tricky, given the wet conditions. It didn't slow down Villeneuve though, being up front throughout the race alongside Michael Schumacher's blood-red Ferrari. Damon Hill, on the other hand, found it difficult to drive in these wet conditions. As a result, spun off and damaged his car, forcing him into retirement. This was exactly what Villeneuve needed to stay in championship contention, as he picked up 4 points with a 3rd place finish at the end of the Spanish Grand Prix of '96, finishing behind Jean Alesi and race winner Michael Schumacher. Which it was this race that marked Schumacher's first of many more wins in Ferrari colors, but I'm pretty sure most of y'all already know that. Lots of pressure was being put on Jacques in the next race on home turf, racing on the circuit named after his father, Gilles Villeneuve. However, Damon Hill was yet again a little too fast for him, as it was Damon with the maximum points, with Villeneuve finishing behind in 2nd place. Even though it wasn't a victory on the top step at the end of the day, he made the podium in his home race in his rookie season. He also made the podium in the French Grand Prix, albeit another runner-up result to Damon Hill. As the Formula One circus began the second half of the 1996 season, at this point, Hill and Villeneuve scored a ton of points, which gave Williams the Constructors' Championship. Even though it wasn't official up to this point yet, it was considered another Constructors in the bag for the Williams team, since they walked away from the rest of the teams trying to catch up. That aside, going back to Villeneuve, the Canadian was down by 25 points in the championship table, heading into the next race at Silverstone for the British Grand Prix, a race in which he dominated and won with ease, having led 54 of the 61 laps, while setting the fastest lap of the race in the process. And now the gap in the standings went from 25 to 15. Villeneuve with the top step, while his teammate Hill spun off into the gravel and did not finish 26 laps in his home race. Though Damon Hill quickly rebounded into winning form, sealing the dub at the German Grand Prix at Hockenheim and setting the fastest lap, as well as increasing his lead in the championship, staying ahead of Villeneuve by a margin of 21 points at the conclusion of the race. But regarding Villeneuve, he finished this race in the German Grand Prix on the podium in third, scoring a good amount of 4 points. In the following round in Hungary, it was another 1-2 finishing result for Villeneuve and Hill, which gave Williams officially the Constructors' Championship, with 8 of those now in total, and at the time, equaling Ferrari's record with that many in the Constructors' table. 17 points was the difference between the two Williams drivers, as we are now into the closing stages of the 1996 campaign with 4 more races to go. And like I've mentioned just now, with 17 points being the gap, Villeneuve still had a shot at the Formula One World Championship in his rookie year. Now we come to Spa-Francorchamps for the Belgian Grand Prix, where Villeneuve started from pole and finishing runner-up to Ferrari's Michael Schumacher. But Hill finished in the points as well, with 5th, earning 2 points. And then we come to Monza, where neither of the Williams drivers finished inside the points range, considering Damon spun off, and Villeneuve finishing just outside of the points in 7th place. If Villeneuve was to have any chance at the title, as he's down by 13 now after Monza, he needed to hope for a miracle in the penultimate round in Estoril. And indeed, a miracle it was. Villeneuve came into Estoril with a clutch victory, reducing the gap to 9 points, behind Damon, who finished second to Jacques at the end of the Grand Prix of Portugal. With 9 points being the gap, Villeneuve was still in this, and still has a chance to claim the Formula One World Championship, with the Williams showdown coming to the season finale in Suzuka. Race day in Suzuka, Japan. It was all or nothing in the hands of Villeneuve. He had to win and hoped Hill finished outside of the points range to stand any chance of the driver's title. And he had the momentum going into the Japanese Grand Prix, considering he took pole position, starting alongside his championship rival. When the lights went out, it was Hill who got the whole shot, leaving Villeneuve in the dust, with plenty of work to do in the case of Villeneuve. And indeed, Villeneuve had the pace and the speed, setting the fastest lap, doing so, and was pushing it beyond his limits. Perhaps pushed a bit too hard, as his FW18 became more and more of a handful to drive. And to add more insult to injury, his right rear tire flew off going through turn 1 midway through the race, beaching the car in the gravel. And just like that, in the blink of an eye, it was over. Though it was over either way, considering Damon Hill led every single lap and cruised to victory and became the Formula One World Champion of '96 right then and there. And with that being said, while Damon Hill celebrated championship glory, Villeneuve, on the other hand, on the other side of the paddock, wondered what could have been. Would've, could've, should've, but in the end, it just wasn't meant to be. The final margin of 19 points separated the two Williams drivers when it was all said and done. Jacques Villeneuve's F1 rookie season stats from 1996 look like this: 4 wins, 11 podiums out of the 16 races run, with 9 front row starts, with 3 of them from pole position, clocking in the most fastest laps with 6 in car number 6, leading for 285 laps, with an average start of 3.1 and an average finish rate of 4.9, along with 4 DNFs. But if you ask me, one of the best rookie seasons in F1 history. Villeneuve, without a doubt, was championship worthy and had the pace and the car to get it done, and could have done what Scott Dixon did in IndyCar in 2003 by winning the championship in season 1. But, as we know, Villeneuve came up short. Villeneuve came up just short in his rookie year in the world of Formula One. And it makes many wonder, with the biggest what if he had a better start than Damon in Japan, and it was Damon that finished out of the points instead of Jacques in the Japanese Grand Prix, and Jacques taking home the win. Just what if Jacques hadn't made a rookie mistake in Brazil, or somehow, someway made the pass for the lead on Damon in a few races like in Canada, or possibly held on for the win in his debut race in Australia. Just what if in 1996, Jacques Villeneuve captured his missing ring?